Chapter 14. The Path of Non-Forcing. Flowing naturally from the exploration of free creative flow across different life domains is a fundamental principle that underpins its very possibility, the path of non-forcing. So much of our conventional way of operating in the world is based on effort, control, striving, and the exertion of will to achieve desired outcomes. We push, we plan meticulously, we try to bend reality to our intentions. FCF, however, operates from a radically different basis, one grounded in allowing, responsiveness, and the recognition of inherent, effortless power that arises precisely because it isn't hoarded. At its heart, this path distinguishes between effortless action versus striving. Striving arises from a sense of lack, a perceived gap between where we are and where we believe we should be. It involves mental and often physical tension, a pushing against resistance towards a predetermined goal. Effortless action, conversely, emerges naturally from a state of alignment and presence. Feels less like doing and more like being moved. It aligns with the concept explored in the power phase of the 5QLN framework, where action A arises as the path of least resistance, guided by the felt sense of resonance, Z. This doesn't necessarily mean less activity, but the quality of the activity feels different, lighter, more spontaneous, arising from the situation itself rather than being imposed upon it. This shift requires cultivating a stance of allowing rather than controlling. Control stems from the belief that we must manage variables, predict outcomes, and direct events according to our knowledge and will. Allowing, on the other hand, involves a deep trust in the unfolding process. It acknowledges that we don't have access to all information, that the future is fundamentally unknown, and that often the most intelligent action emerges organically when we release our tight grip on needing to dictate every step. A subtle yet crucial aspect of non-forcing involves awareness of creative energy flow versus accumulation. Free creative flow arises from an infinite source, infinity. It is inexhaustible. Recognizing this profoundly changes our relationship with creative energy. When operating from a finite mindset, there's a tendency, even unconsciously, to accumulate or hoard creative energy, perhaps feeling the need to build up power before acting, or fearing that the flow might stop. This very accumulation, however, interrupts the natural current. It creates a bottleneck, preventing the energy from moving effortlessly towards manifestation, value/B. You accumulate something finite, but there is no need to accumulate the infinite. True non-forcing involves letting the energy flow through without trying to possess or reserve it, trusting that the fountain is always present. It requires awareness to notice when energy starts circling back on itself, building pressure rather than moving outward freely. Central to non-forcing is also recognizing the power of starting from what is. As highlighted in the FCF practices, the starting point is always the now, regardless of its perceived imperfections. We don't need to achieve a state of perfect calm or clarity before we can allow FCF. Trying to force ourselves into an idealized starting condition, or even trying to artificially store up energy, is itself a form of striving that blocks the flow. Non-forcing accepts the current reality, mental noise, external chaos, uncertainty, the energy present now, and allows the creative impulse or the aligned action to emerge from within that reality. This path is not one of passivity or resignation. It is an active engagement with presence and a deep listening to the subtle currents of emergence, including the movement of creative energy itself. It requires courage, the courage to let go of familiar patterns of control and accumulation, to trust the infinite source and the unknown unfolding, and to value authentic resonance over calculated outcomes or stored power. While perhaps less common, stories and experiences abound where letting go of forcing and accumulation yielded unexpected breakthroughs. These stories of transformation through non-forcing illustrate the potential power that becomes available when we shift from imposing our will onto life to allowing life's inherent, inexhaustible intelligence to flow through us. Embracing non-forcing opens the door to a more harmonious, less stressful, and often surprisingly effective way of navigating the world, rooted in the effortless power of free creative flow.